and welcome to this conversation brought to you by White House Custom Color. I'm Jed Toffer, and today I'm at Push Conference 2018. I get to speak with Brooke Daniels, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of really neat things dealing with work-life balance. How's it going, Brooke?
Good. It's doing good. How are you?
We've had quite a day today.
Yes,
you spoke today.
Yes.
And we had some technical difficulties. We're currently packing Brooke's computer up right now because there might be some issues with it.
Great timing for that too, right before the presentation.
Yeah, it was right before, but it went off pretty well then, from what I understand.
Yep, we got a new computer and think it was okay after that.
Yeah, and we met each other at After Dark.
That's right. Yep, like 7 years ago, probably.
Is that when it was?
I think so. Yeah, because our daughter was like maybe 1 at the time. So
we had a big conversation then.
We did, indeed.
So this is kind of like the after. That was like the before,
right?
And this is the after.
That's right.
Tell me really quick a little bit about yourself. Who you are, and whatnot.
Awesome. So my name is Brooke.
Yeah.
Originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and that's where I started shooting when our son was born. So about 11 years ago, and then we moved to Northern Virginia, just outside of DC. I relocated there 9 years ago, and so I primarily just shoot seniors. I started specializing 6 years ago. I'd say narrowed my work down to that because working with the teens is definitely my favorite age group. But my main job is being a mom. So I try to take really few sessions so that I can focus on my family. And this is a nice creative outlet, and I do love working with that age group, but I'm not a high quantity photographer, so I take very few sessions.
So lower volume, higher end. Do you try to stay in the higher end?
Yeah, just because the amount of time I do invest with the editing, and I do a lot with the pre-session planning, wardrobe, hair, makeup. We do a lot of stylized stuff and also some destination shoots. So there's definitely a big time investment. So it's an investment for sure for the clients, but
like an investment on both sides.
Exactly. Yep.
So give me a little bit, considering that our topic is going to be how you handle being a great mom and a great business person at the same time.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about how things were 6 or 7 years ago when we first talked.
Right, exactly. So I guess I can kind of share that story a little bit because it has a lot to do with where I am now.
Okay.
So I had at the time been shooting for several years, and I had a baby and a toddler and a husband who travels, and was frazzled and exhausted. And was working so hard on making my business grow. At the time, we had moved to Virginia, and there wasn't a lot of competition in our area, so I was booking way more than I could keep up with, and I was shooting at that time more than just seniors. So I had all these different, clients, different genres of photography, and I couldn't say no. It's like every single inquiry that came my way, any opportunity to do any kind of a shoot or any kind of a conference, like anything, I would just say yes to it. And so my calendar was completely full, took on way more than I could handle. And I was determined to not let that affect being a mom and the time spent with my kids. So I was staying up all night editing. So I was, no babysitters, no daycare. I was there with them when they were home and when we were together during the day. But as soon as they were asleep, then I'd start working on the editing and would be up till 3, 4, 5 in the morning.
Oh my.
Then they're up at 6, 7.
Right.
And I sustained this lifestyle for, it was kind of a blur, but I think it was probably a year or two that I kind of lived like this, to the point that I was so stressed, so tired, was negatively affecting and impacting everything from my health to my relationship with my kids, my relationship with the people I loved, because I was so overwhelmed and exhausted. And it was kind of my outlet, work-wise, because it was something I felt like I could control, because having a newborn and a toddler, we know we can't control, some of that going on in our life being a parent. And I just felt so absolutely overwhelmed, but my work was thriving. My business was doing well, right? I was making money. I was booking clients. My business was growing. And I thought I had it figured out, right? I thought I was doing really well. And when I met you at the After Dark 7 years ago, and I think I asked you about advice on like pricing and trying to figure out how, to make sure I was like earning enough based on my time, had nothing to do with the other, right? And then you start asking me some questions. You could probably tell, like, this woman, she's not right. She needs to be at home. She does not need to be here. She's exhausted. And you made me write down on a piece of paper that I'm choosing to do something every day that's negatively affecting my kids. And I had to write their names down. And until that moment, I thought what I was doing was helping, right? I thought I was being, bringing financial resources to our family, helping my husband with that, and setting a good example for our kids, showing my daughter you can be anything you want to be, and you can own a business and be a mom. Like, I thought I was doing so good, thought I was setting a good example. And I realized they just want me. Like, they just want my time and my love and my attention. Now, I know there are people that are photographers and they are the primary source of finance for their family, right? I get that. And that is a whole different realm. But I don't have to work at the level that I'm working. Like, we need the extra income, but I don't have to be killing myself to make ends meet, right? And my primary job, what God has made me to be, is to be their mom. And that is my priority. And this other stuff is just extra, right? That's comes second. But for a couple of years, I can definitely say that I think work had taken over me, our life. There's a great quote that I have to ask myself this sometimes. It's, are you running your business, or is your business running you? Right. And for a couple of years, my business was absolutely running me, running our family dynamic, really. It affected everything. And so I decided I had to make a change. I had to come home and do something different, and learn to say no. The power of saying no, and only say yes to those things that absolutely set your soul on fire. Those things and opportunities that you really want to do, that you're passionate about, that you're excited about, and anything else, you have to say no. And I couldn't say no for years. I was worried that I would lose my business. I would become completely irrelevant. And then I would not have clients anymore. And as soon as I learned, no, I don't have to shoot all these genres. I can narrow it down to what I love most. I can cut back. I can charge more. Like, the power of learning those steps. And it took a couple of years, and it's still something, something that's always working on. Yeah. But absolutely, from that moment, for the next couple of years, I started to make changes where, for sure, my family was always first, and that the work came after that. And that's absolutely how it is now. And it feels so much better, and such a better place. And I can enjoy work. But where I'm most happy is when I'm with my kids. And that's really what I wanted to be doing all the time.
So when you were in that state and you were working those hours under those conditions and essentially putting that on yourself.
Right.
What was your husband saying?
He's always been very supportive over anything, that I've wanted to do. And he knew that I've always had this burning, passion with art and with photography, and I've always wanted to do that. And so he's always been supportive. And I think he was careful of what to say to me, because he didn't want to, come across as like being unsupportive. Right. But he definitely would try to help me slow down and say, why are you doing this? Or, why are you doing this to yourself? You don't need to be working this hard. You don't need to be working this much. But we're so opposite in what we do as far as our line of work. And I am super like ADD and really creative and kind of all over the place. And he is super not those things. He's so organized and type A and structured. And so I kind of always feel like he just doesn't completely know the way my mind works, and that I couldn't even totally like articulate to him where I was at and how I was feeling. But I knew that he and the kids deserved more of me. They deserved the best of me, not the rest of me, which is kind of what they were getting for a while. Just from sheer exhaustion alone, right? I just didn't have any energy left to give. I was so
how
pooped.
Could you, right?
Right. And I was the only one that could make that change, realizing like, it's on me. This is, I have to own this. I have made, bad choices, and I've been focusing on the wrong thing, and I have to shift my priority now because I only get to be a mom once, and there is nothing more important than that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what were the things, like when you came home from that, even then,
right?
What were the things you started to do? What were like the action items?
Absolutely. So the first thing was learning to say no. Okay. I'm like, by golly, I have not been practicing this word in my vocabulary enough, except for my kids, telling them no. But when it comes to clients, right? And so that was the first thing, is just learning the power of that and the freedom that came along with it. And once I did it a few times and told some clients no, and they didn't hate me, they didn't lose respect for me, right? The world continued. They just moved on and found another photographer. Like once I realized, hey, this isn't so bad. And then look, I have a free day on my calendar. Go figure. Like, it was the best feeling. So the more I did it, the easier it became. So that was probably the first step. And the second thing was to narrow my work and to specialize just in seniors. So at that time, I was still shooting boudoir, family, maternity, newborn, engagement, seniors, basically anything except weddings, because I wouldn't shoot on the weekends.
Right.
And after that, I said, you know what? If I'm going to be away from my kids and my family, and I do need to work a bit, then I better do what I'm best at and what I love most. And that for sure was working with teens and seniors. So I kind of took a leap of faith and narrowed my business down to just that. And I took all the other work off my website and social media, and things went down a bit. Of course, I didn't keep up the same level of booking, which was also kind of a nice break.
Right.
And then once I really started to kind of hone in and specialize in that one genre, then I actually became just as busy as I was before, but I could be more selective because I was just focusing kind of on that one age group. Started to do, spokesmodel program, intern program, and whatnot. So specializing was one of the next steps, and then learning about like automated posts, to do some automated posts with social media. Things to kind of help me spend less time, and some tips to try to earn more, but get to work less.
Yeah, because we didn't even talk about social media back then.
Right. It wasn't a thing. Like I probably just started maybe with Facebook, just with friends, right? And I had a website, and that was it. And learning to try to delegate and outsource some tasks, whether it was sending pictures off to be edited and to pay someone to do something I don't enjoy doing, and they're better at it, and I can write it off.
So that's what you're doing.
Yes. Not all the time, though.
Okay.
I'm not consistent with that. It's just based on busy season or not. And if I have someone available who I really like working with them and like the way their editing turns out. So I'm not been totally consistent with that. But things like hiring someone to maybe come clean your house once a month, or grocery services where you can do the free Walmart app to order your groceries and just swing by and pick them up. Just little things to help save time. That was probably the next step. And then scheduling. So I never have worked on the weekends, but I would schedule the sessions late afternoon because of the sunlight was better, right? After the kids got home. This is now fast forward. So they're getting a little older now. They're in preschool or elementary school. And I used to kind of let the sun dictate when I shot, right? Because I thought the images would turn out prettier shooting them late afternoon. Well, now that they are in elementary school, they get home at 4. High schoolers get out at 2. So I shoot almost all my sessions during the week between 2 to 4.
Right.
So I'm working, but I am still home by the time they get home. Design sessions, I schedule at 3 o'clock. Again, I'm done. When they get home, like I am 100% mom. I don't have any work to do.
And what's a design session?
That's when they would come back to view their images and to do kind of their ordering session.
Okay.
But we don't do they don't place their final order then. It's just a time for them to look at their images, look at their products and art, and they get 3 days with an online gallery to order. In our area, most of the dads travel a lot, military, law enforcement, so they're gone, and it's super hard to schedule to have both parents available. I also don't want to do them like at night during our family time and dinner time and bedtime. So normally dad can't come at 3, but the mom typically can. And then they have 3 days. Plus I don't have the time or patience to sit there for 3 hours.
Do they come back again then?
No. I mean, I can send the order directly to them, their art, or they come back and pick it up at the studio once their art is in.
But they come in for that design, you call it a design session.
Yes.
And they come in for that, and then they leave and have 3 days to then order.
From home, online.
From home.
Yep, and they just email me their order.
Okay.
Yep. So I try to just find shortcuts to basically spend less time than I was per client.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And that's all working.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. The time management thing, I think, is the biggest piece, right? And to factor time in for yourself. Like I love the quote that says that self-care is not selfish, right? And that as moms, typically we take care of ourselves last, right? It's our kids come first, then our spouse, our friends, our business, our pets, our neighbors, our family, like everything comes before us. And to know it's okay to take a day a week to go meet a friend for a pedicure, to go to lunch, to go see a movie. And I challenge my friends, to take, one day a week, not the whole day, part of the day, to do something just for you, not with your munchkins, not with your camera, something that helps you feel inspired, that helps you feel rejuvenated. Like we all need that. And moms don't typically make the time for it. And once you get in the habit of it and you see the impact it makes on your family, on the way you feel, it makes a huge difference. So that's something I've tried to do as well.
What's the whole airplane when the
mask comes down,
you put one on you. And it was weird, like even to see that for the first time way back when, I thought, well, that's weird.
Right?
I would never do that if I had a little kid sitting next to me, but it's like, you better do that.
Right. You won't be able to help anyone else if you don't help yourself.
Right.
That's so important, so valuable. Absolutely.
So you go to the spa.
Well, I don't typically do that, but I do get a pedicure. Yeah.
You get a pedicure.
I went to the movies by myself for the first time in the spring, and there was a movie I wanted to see. And my husband, you're going to laugh. I used to ice skate for 11 years when I was younger, and I wanted to see the Tanya Harding movie. I don't even remember what it's called. Yeah, Tanya. Yes.
So good.
So good, right? Allison Janney, amazing.
I bought that movie.
Did you? It was fabulous. So I'm like, I wanted to see it. My husband was on a trip. My parents were out of town. All of my girlfriends were busy or not interested in seeing the movie.
And you used to ice skate.
I did for 11 years. So that was like my jam.
Love it.
And so I went to the movies totally by myself, and it was fantastic.
You had like the best time at the movies.
I kicked at my feet.
Watching the best movie.
I loved it. I got my large popcorn. I was in there with a bunch of like old people who were also by themselves, and I'm like, this is living. Like I would have never done that, a few years ago. But to make margin, to make that space in your calendar, to have one day a week where you don't even touch your computer, you don't look at your phone aside from like phone calls or urgent texts. You totally take a break from social media. Mark it out on your calendar.
So you plan it.
I think you have to, because if you don't, it's so easy for stuff to creep in. Another thing I started to do was however many sessions I thought I could handle in any given month or any given week, reduce that by either one session or like 10%, depending on your quantity of work that you're doing, because you have to leave room for the unexpected, and you have to leave margin. If your child gets sick, if you have an off day, if an emergency happens, or
who knows?
Right. And if you have no margin in that calendar and you have no wiggle room, it's exhausting, right? I'm old school, so all of my stuff is written like by hand in a calendar. And when I look forward on a week and I see that on Thursday I have nothing, I'm like, I get so excited. I'm like, I can go to TJ Maxx for an hour, right? And just cruise the aisles. It's wonderful. But if you don't kind of plan that, same with dates with your spouse. Like we have to make time. Our schedules are insane. And it seems like we crisscross, right? Two ships passing in the night. And we have to say, okay, babe, let's look at your calendar. Look at mine. Okay. Wednesday night, we're going to try to have dinner. I'm going to see if my mom can come watch the kids, whatever. You have to plan it, because if you don't, everything else just will take over. Life happens. And so, but if you're committed to that calendar and you've got a plan, whether it's your spouse, your friend, or a date by yourself, you stick to it. And you have to take some time away, because it's hard being your own boss and not having someone to tell you when there's a deadline or to tell you when to take a day off. So if you don't make that time for yourself, you go crazy.
I heard a story of a couple pastors one time that they were like the famous pastors, right? And they were trying to connect with one another, and their schedules were both so busy that they were doing that thing with the calendar where they're trying to find a time. And they found a time like 5 weeks out finally when one of them had nothing. And the other one said, I got nothing scheduled that day. And the first guy was like, well, then that'll be the day.
Right.
And the other guy said, no, I have nothing scheduled that day. And the guy was like, yeah, me too.
Right, perfect.
We can hang out. And the guy's like, no, you don't understand. In my calendar, I have that whole afternoon and evening booked.
Right.
With nothing.
And you're not taking that from me.
So that's not you.
Right. I have a date with nothing.
But that struck me, I heard that story and I was like, we are living in a time, it seems, especially with family and business and all the different commitments that we have, that you really have to be diligent and intentional about that.
Absolutely.
And if you're not, it'll bite you.
Right. You can't put things on cruise control. You can't put your spouse and your kids just on cruise control and think that we're cool. You have to constantly keep those lines of communication open. Having individual dates with our kids by themselves is so valuable. Yeah. And we don't do it as often, as I wish. We go in my camper a lot on trips, and we're all together. Either I'm with the kids or my mom will come with us. And so we definitely do a lot as a family, kind of together as a group all the time. But when we take that time to do something just with one child, individual, even just going for ice cream for an hour or two, it is amazing. Like what they open up and talk about, because they're not competing for your attention, and you can give them your undivided attention. It's like the best. And I learned things about my kids, and I'm like, you're such a cool person. Like I didn't know you thought that way about that. I didn't know you felt that way. And I'm like, if we hadn't had that time, one-on-one.
If you don't do it, you're not gonna hear it. You're not gonna see it.
No, and they're gonna get to the age where they're not gonna maybe want to do that. Right. They're gonna say, hey, no, I'm going out with my friends. I'm going out with my girlfriend. And so I'm like, while they are still at home and still young and still like to be around us, you got to take advantage of that.
That's convicting to me.
Yeah.
That's hitting me in the stomach right now.
We'll
a little
go home
bit.
and you make dates with your kiddos, right? It can be spontaneous. Sometimes like Brent will take one and I'll take the other the same day if we can, or we'll spread it out and be like, hey, but when I do it, I'm like, why don't I do this more often? Because I have to say I enjoy their company the most when it's one-on-one, because I am so fully there and they are too. And you just feel so connected and it makes them feel so special. And they, again, are not fighting with their siblings or fighting for your attention because they've got it all. And that's what they want the most.
Well, you can even look back and think back to those days. Every so often for me, it probably happened only a handful of times where I got to spend some time with my dad, just him and I, or even with my mom. And those are times that you remember.
Absolutely.
Like they stand out.
Yep. Those are those magic little nuggets, those little moments in life, right? That you kind of freeze in time. Yeah. And it's our job to make those, right? They're not going to initiate that. They're not going to plan those. Like if we don't do it, it's not going to happen, right? Yes. And so the calendar, there's a quote that says, the pages of the calendar. Oh, I need to look it up. Darn it! About the battle of our hearts are fought on the pages of our calendars. Oh my! Right? Yeah. And so I saw that. I was like so powerful that calendar really rules our. It
resonates.
Absolutely, and that we have got to be in charge of it and make that time, make that margin for what matters most.
So, what sort of advice would you give people that find themselves stuck?
Like in a creative kind of rut with their work, or.
Let me ask it this way, because you mentioned earlier, you said, well, if someone's like relying on their business for their main source of income, and they feel stuck because like they can listen to you talk and say, well, that's great, right? That she's able to even have those options, but I don't feel like I do have that option, right? Because we eat because of the money that I make,
and that is different, right?
It is. And so how do you address someone in that scenario?
I still think there are ways to manage your schedule and manage your time.
They can be better.
Exactly. Right. Like I have interns, and they I hire them in the summer, and they work with me for a year, and they're usually high school juniors, and they come assist at shoots. They can come help me package orders. They help me through the year, and I give them a custom free portrait session and their digital files. And so there are ways you can barter things. There are ways you can hire things, outsource things to try to free up some weekends, it's so much about scheduling. So even if you are the primary, breadwinner for your family, there are still ways to manage the schedule, and that when you are home, right, and you aren't working and your kids are home, that the technology is put up. I mean, I think that's so much of it, right, is that we don't want our kids to remember us by looking at the top of our heads because we're buried in our phone, and we think they don't care, and we think they understand it's work and it's urgent, but they are important. That might feel urgent, but in the end, those things can wait. They can wait till the next day. They can wait till the kids are asleep. But when they are home and you're together as a family, like everything else has got to be put aside, right? So it's just about managing the schedule and like breaking bad habits, really, and to check yourself. Like I have to ask myself, am I running my business or is my business running me, right? And have an accountability partner, to have a friend or somebody that you can check in with, right? That's making sure. Like my biggest thing for a while was the whole sleep issue. I'm a night owl anyway, and that I would stay up so late working, but I was so tired at 2-3 in the morning. I wasn't being super productive, right? And then I'm distracted. I'm looking on Pinterest, and 2 hours later, I'm like, what am I doing? So to have a friend that can text you, at 11 when they're going to bed, saying, hey, you're going to sleep. You need to get sleep. Have a buddy system, and somebody maybe who is either struggling with the same thing you are, or they have struggled through it. They're in a different place now, and they can kind of help you, or your spouse, your partner, to say, hey, I need help with this. Like I need help setting boundaries because I clearly am not doing a great job of it.
How accountability can be scary.
Yeah, it can. But we need that kick in the pants sometimes.
Well, we do, and I think the intentionality piece, you have to be deliberate. Right. And you have to be willing to look at yourself and say, where can I improve? Not can I improve? Right. We all can, but where and where to start. And I think once you can check one box and be like, hey, I've conquered this. I made this goal, and now let's move on to something else, another area where we can improve. And so much of it is learning how to work less and earn more. There's different strategies of how, think about how many hours you're spending with your clients. Do you really need to meet with them for 2 hours and do a pre-session consultation? That's our most valuable asset is our time. So we have to protect it at all costs and never apologize and never make excuses for saying no to something, right? Or for putting your family first. But there are lots of ways, I think, as photographers that we can cut back in certain areas just to give us more time for our family. And it adds up too, right?
Oh, right.
Like if you can take a half hour out of these and a half hour out of this and 20, it's pretty soon you have 4 or 5 hours extra.
Right.
They're found hours in your week.
Yep.
That you can spend either on yourself or with your kids.
Yep.
Or your spouse.
Right. And to try to have some windows in your day that you're completely like technology free, where you put your phone, even if you have to lock it away,
right,
and you have to put it on a different floor, you have to put it in your car.
Right.
But in the morning, from the time your kids wake up till they go to school, that's a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no reason you need to be on your phone. And that little bit of time you have
that hits home.
before they get on the bus early, it can wait an hour.
Yeah.
It can wait, right?
Yeah.
And then I always think, oh my gosh, what if it's an emergency? There are no emergencies in the world of photography. We are not surgeons. We are not, like it can wait.
Right.
And then when the kids get home from school until, dinner or bedtime, those couple of precious hours, if they're not at a sport or activity, those few little hours that they're home after school and before bed, no phone. Like it does not need to be in your hand. It does not need to be. And I struggle with this. I mean, I'm like cooking dinner and they're on the couch snuggling, watching a movie. I'm like, I'm just going to peek over to Instagram real quick, just for a second. But it's addicting. And then you start looking at that. Then you jump onto something else and it's like just out of sight, out of mind. Yeah. They say there's a study done of like the most effective, time efficient leaders, business owners, and they check their email and their social media twice a day.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Once like mid-morning and once before they close shop for the day. Yeah. And they're able to sit down at one time, get it knocked out. Yeah. Because how many times do we check it, when we have just a second to spare at a stoplight or something? I don't even want
to say how many times
right?
I think I check
But then
it.
we forget maybe to respond to an email and then we look back 3 weeks later and we're like, oh my gosh, I missed out on that inquiry because I checked it at a wrong time and forgot to respond. So kind of just setting structure, which I think it's hard because so many creatives are artistic and most of our brains don't work well with structure.
That's true.
And I think that's why so many of us have the same struggle, because if we are creative and artistic, being super structured and organized might not be our gift, right? And so it's hard to like kind of get in this rhythm and routine, but when you see the positive impact it's making and you see things feel better and things are working better, in my family, then like it's worth it. I've just got to stick with it.
That's really good for motivation too, moving forward.
Right. Absolutely. It's hard though. The struggle is real. I mean, every day it's that balance, finding that balance is so hard, I think, for any business owner, regardless of what you're doing, because there's nobody else really to hold you accountable. Like
you
it's
find
on
yourself
you.
consciously trying every day to strive for that.
Yes. Yeah, I think you have to. It's that deliberate and conscious effort. It doesn't come natural, because the easier thing, is to start to feel overwhelmed or to want to check your phone all the time and just to be kind of completely consumed by your work. But you have to say, no, like I'm the boss. My work is not my boss. I'm in control of this. And to just remember what really matters most in life. And there are 940 Saturdays from the time your child is born until they go to college. That's it. 940.
I don't like that. What? Not even 1,000?
No, and you have 18 summers with them, right? And it's like, do you want them to look back, at their summers or at their Saturdays and remember that mom or dad were gone, shooting, working, what have you. And I know some people don't have the choice, right? They have to. But my goal and what I strive for is to give them the best possible childhood, to fill their memory banks with the best possible memories while I still have them at home and while I have this one shot to try to raise some pretty neat little people, and I don't want to live with regret. I don't want to look back. The camera will always be there, right? Our son goes to college in 6 years and when our daughter goes away, and then if this is still my, passion, my hobby, my job, I can pick that camera back up. I can grow my business. I might want to do something else. I might want to do a different genre. Or go in a different direction, but that will always be there. It's not going away. Right. I might have to rebuild. I might have to rebrand. Things I'm sure will be different by then, but I've got one shot at being a mom. Like, this is it. This is it. And this is what matters.
I think for people that have kids in particular, that there's not going to be a lot of people that this doesn't really resonate with. Right.
Because there's nothing you love more than your children, right? There's no more important job.
It's very sobering.
Yeah.
To hear it.
And people come to me and ask, I'm like, look, selfishly, this is why I talk about this topic, because it's the thing I struggle with the most. Like, I need these reminders. I have little signs all over my house, little, inspirational things. My favorite one says, be the mom you want them to remember. Oh. And if I'm having a rough day and I'm not being super patient or super sweet with my kids, my daughter will go over, find that sign, walk it over to me, put it in my face, and give me this look and point to it. Like, girl, You know, you need to get your game on. You're slipping, and you need to be the mom that you want us to remember. And I laugh about it, but I'm like, good thing. I need that. Like, I need that. And so if I love quotes. I love inspirational quotes, and I do have a lot throughout our house because it isn't every day. Like, I got to get my game face on, and I got to kick butt at being a mom. Like, this is it. So one shot.
It's easy to slip back into habits.
Yes. And being a parent is rough. It's difficult, right? And so sometimes our work is an escape from that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we need that quiet place to go where we can just mindlessly edit pictures and not have to stress or worry about things that are going on with our kids. Okay. But it's just all about the balance of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
On Instagram, Brooke Daniels Photography, and we live in Northern Virginia, near DC. So we shoot kind of all over there, and website is brookdanielsphotography.com. And on Facebook too, same name.
Thank you.
Brooke with an E, Daniels with an S.
Oh yeah, that's a good thing. Brooke with an E, Daniels with an S.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you. It's so good to see you again after all these years.
It has been a while. And here you were, and then I was so happy to hear that you remembered that conversation because it meant a lot to me too. And even this, like, you say things where I'm almost like, man, I don't want that to be true, but it really is. Like, even the 940 some days or whatever it is. Saturdays, I've never thought about that before.
Me either. And I read that and I'm like, are you kidding me?
That puts things into perspective.
Absolutely. Yep. I do believe God puts people in your life at the moment and that you need to hear it. Yeah. And you spoke to me for sure, said that my friends or family would have probably never told me, and I needed to hear it. And that was like the initial step to get me to this place now where I can look at work and say, you know, it can wait. Right. And at the time I wasn't letting anything wait, right? Except my kids. And now it is, the roles are reversed, and and I am just so much happier. I have more peace, more margin, and everything's running smoother. I just wish I had gotten to this place sooner, but I hope I can help other people too, you know, who are struggling with this and who kind of need that reminder as well, because it's hard. And it's constantly changing, and having a business in this day and age with social media, and you know, there's just so many distractions, and we have to like limit those distractions, reduce the noise, and hone in on what matters. I recommend everyone getting a camper and traveling. If you want to know my biggest tip and where we have become like the most happy as a family, putting technology aside, we don't check our phones, we don't have Wi-Fi at most of these places, and we're just together as a family. And like,
sound just like my wife. We did that Saturday. Yeah.
Living life and making memories and being dirty and being outside, right? And it just feels like stepping back in time. And I'm like, this is what to me childhood should feel like. Yes. And I could do that all day long, like live all the way in a camper all the time and never come home, and I would be happy. It's just so peaceful. You and her, what in the world? We need to plan a trip.
It's great advice though, and thank you for taking the time to do it. I'm happy to hear that has happened for you and is happening for you. And I'm confident that you have and will continue to inspire others to do the same.
Well, I pray that I can, and I appreciate being here, and it was great chatting with you, and hope we have a great rest of the conference while we're here.
Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right.